Hey, friends. So, um, top three things to know about going gluten free. So let's hang out here just for a minute, though, and just listen to the music in the background. Now, that's my daughter is practicing her violin right now, and so that's always a treat. It's a good thing because she's pretty good. So let's talk about top three things that you should know about going gluten free, right? I'm not going to get into the whole is it the best diet for you or that kind of thing. As far as this is concerned, it's just if you're going to do it for whatever reason, then there's a couple of things. These are the top three things to just sort of be aware of, right? So number one is just making sure that the food that you choose is gluten free, right? And so the only reason I say this is because um, there's a lot of assumptions about things that could be gluten free, but they're not. So like I know when we first started, you start reading things and you're like, oh, well, like rice is cool, and um, like plain chicken, and these different things, and you start to put this idea in together. Like at least for me, it was just probably subconscious or whatever. But I started thinking like, like Asian food is probably, like I could probably go and grab, some food from our favorite like Asian fusion place, and that would probably be good as long as I don't get, something fried or whatever. And and that would be a mistake, right? Because like sometimes the foods, can have gluten in them. So like whether that's just the sauces they make, or in fact, like one of the hidden sort of foods that has gluten in it is soy sauce. So regular soy sauce is often made with wheat, and so that's just that like wasn't on our radar when we were first starting out. Is thinking that soy sauce, maybe because of the name, I don't know, that soy sauce would have gluten in it and stuff. So it's hard when you're depending on where you're at. It's hard to know everything, right, about being gluten free. So that's why I wanted to talk about these top three things, just so that you have a little more background, a little more depth. So when you're starting out, making sure the foods that you choose are gluten free is a good choice, right? And so the way you can do that, like you don't have to. I was talking about this live yesterday on our Facebook page, but the way that you can be proactive, a way you can be proactive about finding foods that are gluten free is to instead of asking and like kind of putting the control in other people's hands, like asking in Facebook groups or asking on, search on YouTube and stuff like that. Those are all great options, right? Like, what I'm going to suggest here is kind of an and in addition to, asking the question, like what foods are gluten free. But like a good choice is just to write down some of the foods that you like to eat usually. So like if you see yourself, wanting to be gluten free and take this on for a week, a month, forever, whatever it is, um, then sitting down and saying, okay, what are my favorite meals? Like what are the meals I see myself eating and enjoying and kind of fitting in with the theme of what I'm trying to do here with my life. And so, maybe that's like spaghetti and meatballs, right? Well, so now when you start to investigate like what is gluten free, you have a purpose, right? You're looking for a spaghetti, noodle that's gluten free, right? And there's lots of gluten free pastas now. And there's some really good ones. Finding or making a great gluten free pasta sauce is easy, right? So and then you can add meat if you want, like sausage or meatballs or that kind of thing. So like, that's a way when you're, so this top thing of saying, you know, finding the foods that are gluten-free is kind of the number one thing. Well, you want to kind of avoid like getting tricked or making an assumption, like we talked about, like with the foods that might have like soy sauce in it or something like that. Um, and and then just be proactive, kind of write down, make a meal plan for yourself, which is something we've been working on, is actually designing a 4-week meal plan for people. But so we've been getting a lot of practice at that. But that is number one, is just making sure the foods are gluten free. So then, and number two is just going to kind of fit along with that. And number two is just to have a plan, right? So like I've done different diets, like we've been gluten free forever because we have to be. And like our daughter has celiac disease, and we just keep it out of the house, period. Um, so like that part is easy for us. It wasn't easy at first, but and here's what made it hard is like not knowing what we were going to do, right? Like when you don't have a plan, I don't care what diet you're going on, keto, paleo, primal, whatever. When you start out, on this diet and it's like day 2 and like snack time in the middle of the day of your work day or whatever, you want to go grab a snack, right? Like that's just like autopilot. And if you don't have, in this case, like gluten-free snacks handy, that you like, and I mean, there's so many of them, right? I mean, I remember that was one of the reasons when I started writing this book, this shopping guide, there are no less than 1,879 different gluten-free foods in here, but like one of the biggest sections is snacks, right? Because that's what I was personally needing, like that was a weakness for me, at the point in time when we were doing this and when we were first starting out. And, and that like, so when I did primal for a long time, like that was the other thing that I had to do. Like I knew from going gluten-free, like I have to know that when I'm ready for a snack, because it's just autopilot for my brain, I have to know that when I open the cupboard or open the fridge, like all I'm going to see is like the snack that I can have with this diet. So gluten-free is a little diet, a little different in that it's not like a typical weight loss diet. People typically do gluten-free because they want to heal their gut, feel better, clear up some health issues. I think no matter what kind of different diets you try, it's a good thing to just shake up things for your body, because like our brains just kind of get into autopilot, right? But getting back to the 3 main points here. Number two, so number one is just making sure the foods you choose are gluten free. Number two is having a plan so that you make it easy on yourself, right? You just have to sort of know your weaknesses and then kind of get on top of those before you kind of fail, right? You got to stay on top of them all the time, depending on how long you're trying to do this for. So, and if you're doing it forever, then it gets easier, right? You pass a couple weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, like, and you start to form new habits, you find new tastes and things you like. And there's a good chance even on gluten-free, but there's so many foods that are just naturally gluten-free that you don't even have to switch foods, in a lot of cases. So, I mean, like Lay's potato chips, you can just, or tortilla chips, you can just go have some chips and they're gluten-free, no big deal. So you just got to be on top of that stuff. So that's number two, is just have a plan. Number three is just kind of watching out, so this one depends a little more. This is more directed for the people who like have a gluten intolerance or celiac disease. So this is an important one. And I wanted to throw it in there because this isn't just, this is kind of for everybody. But number three is just avoiding the cross contaminations that can happen, right? So, like, okay, you go look up French fries at McDonald's. Well, they coat the French fries in like a flour mix that has gluten in it, right? So, like right away, you can't have those fries. But then, maybe you go to like Red Robin. Well, this is dreaming because it's like COVID right now, and nobody's going anywhere really. But you go to, it's all going to go back to normal, right? It's someday. But you go to a restaurant and like they say, oh yeah, our fries are gluten free. Well, you really got to know, like, is that being fried in the same fryer where they do like chicken tenders, that have gluten on them? Because if so, then you're going to get the gluten, basically kind of baked right onto those fries, and that's cross contamination. And depending on how sensitive you are, or your child, or whoever, um, the thing about it is like you just kind of have to watch out, like crumbs on the counter, um, you know, flour powder on the counter, on the cutting boards, in the pots and pans. People have different levels of sensitivity. I will say, I think part of, some people's sensitivity is more mental than physical, but whatever, that's, everybody's got their own truth, right? And so I'm not going to judge it. It's just, I know like our daughter's sensitive, so we gotta, that's why we had to go gluten free in the house, because it didn't make sense to risk it all the time and to have to worry about it. So, and plus, we were raising her. It's like, you want to do the right thing and like know what to tell her as she's growing up. And I wanted to figure this all out too. Um, and I've always liked the, switching up things for my body and that kind of thing. Like it's a good thing. It's a healthy thing to change your diet around. And, for me at the point in time when we switched to gluten free, it was like we were eating a lot of gluten, a lot of carbs. And, fortunately back then I lost a lot of weight, just because it was like I was on a very carb centric wheat diet, and because I was working a ton and I was just eating all the easy foods, which weren't good for me, and at least my choices were not. And so switching to gluten free, there were like no good gluten free breads. There was like, it was so hard to find good carbs that I liked the taste of, then. And this was in like 2010, 2011, where they were super expensive, and it was just like, I'm not going to buy that. So, my daughter didn't have to sort of switch ever, but we did. And so that was a big experience for us because it was a big change in diet, right? A lot of different foods. But then we got used to it. And now it's like we have pastas and breads, and, that stuff's all available, and they're so much better now. And so, we're fortunate. But anyway, quick recap, three things. The top three things: make sure the food is gluten free. You don't always have, that doesn't mean you have to find just certified, $20 cookies that are gluten free. There's plenty of options, like I was talking about when you're looking through the store. Of course, the cookies can be, expensive, but you can make them at home a little less expensively. Number two, so make sure your foods are gluten free. That's number one. Number two, plan, right? You understand your weaknesses and plan for those, right? Know that if it's you, your kid, your husband, your wife, whoever is gluten free in your life and trying to do this, know that they're going to need snacks. They're going to need, something to munch on midday. They're going to want dessert after, like whatever the patterns are, right? Like whatever they enjoy. And it's got to be like, you've got to have a plan for those times, especially when you're starting out, right? So, the easiest way to do that is with a plan. And then number three, we just jump right into avoiding the cross contamination. So just making sure that, kind of like number one and number three are very similar. They're related. It's just kind of saying, if I'm going to do this gluten-free thing, let's make sure we do it right. Like if you're trying to get results and see if this works for you, or, makes you feel better, like you're not going to know if half the time you're eating gluten and you don't know it, right? You're going to think, well, that didn't work, when in fact, you were still eating gluten the whole time. right? The thing about gluten is, if your body doesn't like it, it doesn't take much, right? I know for my daughter, it's just a couple crumbs of gluten, and that's like enough to make her body get wacky. So if you're trying to cut it out and really see if it helps, really cut it out, so that you can know when you're done. Um, that's what I got. I don't see any questions here in the live chat, but I'd love to answer any if you have one. While you're looking at that and thinking about that, I will also bring up that, like I mentioned before, we've been working on a new product, a 4-week meal plan, and that is, basically we've just made it for sale. Maybe I'll put a link to it below this video, but we're kind of running a special on it right now. I don't know how long that'll last, but it's super cool. It's like completely done for you, 4 weeks of breakfast, lunch, and dinner meal plan. Plus, I do like a workshop for how to put together your own meal plans for, kind of after the 4 weeks, how to leverage it, how to, find stuff out of the meal plan that we've done for you to, make it flexible and fit your needs, that kind of thing. So that's been fun, and it's helped kind of get me back on par with, our own meal planning in the house. We've kind of done it, and I've taken a lot of things for granted. So it's been fun to think about it all again, and like, really start with square one, and like, why did we do that again? And so that's been fun. And if you're interested, that's it's out there, it's available, and certainly love to share it with you. And we've made it super affordable, so check it out. I'll put the link below. All right. Well, I don't see any questions. Appreciate your joining me, though. We'll see you next time.